The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, place work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. It is a pleasure to have you here, although I'm not feeling a great deal of pleasure at the moment. Your boy is a little sick this week. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I've come down with a bit of a bug. You know, it's interesting when you have a kid, because when your kid comes home from school, sometimes they come home with some illness that they've picked up from school. And it's always fun when that happens, because it's like having a tiny little time machine in front of you that's going to help you find out what you're going to be sick with in 8 days. And that's what I am dealing with right now. Whatever weird bug the walking petri dishes at my son's pre-K gave to my son has now made its way through the house to me, and I am fighting through it here on Sirius XM radio. But hey, at least I'm not doing the two things that you should never do when you're sick: talk a lot and have very bright lights in front of your faces. So I should be fine. But in all seriousness, I am feeling pretty good despite my compromised health, because I am excited for our guest this week. This is a cool one here. We're going to be joined by Bobo Burns. He's an acclaimed indie singer-songwriter and author. Always nice to get to chat with a fellow author of the new memoir, Too Many Miles on the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador. Pages after pages of stories of that real musician life. So many lessons learned, so many experiences. He's going to share them all with us. That's Bobo Burns coming up in the next segment. I love that we have Bobos in this world. You know, the name Robert, if you start with like the genus Robert, there are a lot of derivations of that, right? You got your Bobs, you got your Roberts, you got Robbies, Robs, Bobbies. Not enough Bobos, in my opinion. I think we need to bring Bobo into the forefront. We need more Bobos in this world, starting with our guest in the next segment, Bobo Burns. Always happy to be joined by our co-host, by the way, who's right here, Zach Sloan. Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Ryan, I feel your child bringing school illnesses back to your house pain. I recently just got over my last illness that my child brought home. So I feel for you. And when you texted me and said you were ill, I just thought that meant you were feeling great. Like you were just on top of it. But apparently you meant actually ill.
Because as you know, I'm a 90s hip hop artist.
Yeah, I thought that was your new thing. I thought you were going to be Ill Ryan. And I was like, that's a cool name.
And so I dabble in that slang, of course. But I mean, you hate that feeling too as a parent, right? When you see your kid sick and you're like, oh, good, I'm going to enjoy that in 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be my life in 8 days. Awesome.
And it's also really hard because like our kids are about the same age. And like, I do love a good, like when my daughter is like, Daddy, come snuggle. I'm always like, absolutely. And then you get next to her and you're like, you're sick as crap right now. It's like, but you can't be like, Daddy, snuggle me. No.
Cooties.
I'm sorry. You're going to get me ill, kid. I got stuff to do. Like, no. So yeah, I thought your time machine analogy was apt.
I mean, I hate it every single time. And, but you know, it's not as, it's really the lights more than anything else. Like I might turn these off just to like, you know, keep my retinas from falling out. But I am excited this week, not just for the stories we have, but I think this guest is going to be pretty cool, Zach. I mean, I don't know if you knew who Bobo Burns was before we started researching him for the show, but when I listened to his music, when I checked out pieces of the memoir, I was like, this is a Zach Sloan guy right here. Like, this is going to be one of those shows where I'm going to lose control of this interview because Zach is just going to want to get into the weeds with Bobo Burns.
Did you look at his website? Did you not see the Vox amp with a cat on it?
No, here we go. Amp talk.
I mean, this is what I'm talking. No, I'm talking about a cat. I thought you would be all about the the Pet Talk.
Oh, I said no, it was like a brand of amplifier. I'm sick.
No, Vox is the amplifier. Listen, okay, I'll get in the weeds with him. Listeners, rest assured, this guy makes great music. His book sounds really interesting, and I've actually been excited to listen to him all week. So it's good stuff.
And interestingly, like even producer Lauren like caught an aspect of Bobo Burns that she has been like talking up a lot in the pre-show. Producer Lauren, you were saying that like you are obsessed with his publicity photo. Like you really like the publicity photo.
I wouldn't go as far as saying obsessed, but I do applaud a good photographer capturing an artist. And I will say, you know, we load a lot of photos because we have a lot of guests and there's a lot of PR. And as simple as it is, I caught this one and I was thinking to myself, wow, I really like what they loaded up. I'm trying to load this up for you here. Let's see if it'll share it here. This is one of the shots that they sent in, and it's, you know, it's just a shot of a musician playing a guitar, but I just his photographer's name was not on there. So when he does come out, I would love to give a shout out to that photographer because that was a nice image.
So
yeah.
I wonder if they used any sort of wind machine for like having his hair flap like that, or maybe just his hair naturally does that because he's so badass.
Because he's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Action shot. It's something in the eyes. It's something, I don't know. So many.
It's a good look. It really is.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Instant. It doesn't, you don't have to overanalyze it. I got it. And I was like, it was a breath of fresh something.
It's such good lighting. And if that were me, like if somebody caught a photo of me like that with like my light being hit just right, my hair, you know, back when I had hair like flapping in the wind like that, I would be so annoying with that photo. That photo would be on all my social media. It would be on every publicity poster of me that comes out. I would send that photo into the marketing department. Like I would beat that photo into the ground if I had a photo that just caught me as well as that one did.
You could put it on your Ryan Kairalla branded guitar picks.
I got so much. I got mocked
His
so relentlessly for that.
Picks.
Yeah.
His pickup picks. All right, to business, Zachary. I wanted to talk about a pretty interesting legal case. There's an area of law that I don't think we talk about nearly enough on this show, but is ultimately one that is kind of at the center of a lot of problems that artists, particularly indie artists, face. And that's antitrust law. So antitrust law, we're talking about monopolies, companies that control way too much of an industry and use that marketing power to make products worse, to make things more expensive, and ultimately to bully the little guys and gals, including artists. Monopolization is a huge problem in the entertainment industry, whether it is having a few streaming services that control all the streaming service audience, or a few major record companies that are controlling all the output of the music we enjoy, or a few major publishing companies that control all of the songs we get to listen to, or what I would say is probably the biggest monopoly problem that we have right now in the music industry, control over the live performance world. Right now, most of the live music that you watch has either been presented in an arena owned by, or you bought a ticket from a company owned by, or the show was marketed or promoted by all the same company, Live Nation. They have an absolute chokehold on the live music industry. And what has that meant? More expensive concerts, more difficult experiences for artists. You can never find, every show you ever want to go to is always sold out within 3 seconds of the tickets going on sale. I mean, nobody would say, hey, what's a great experience right now? The live music industry. And you can lay a lot of that blame solely at the feet of a single company because of, again, this monopoly power. If you had real market competition in either the venue industry or the ticketing industry or the live music promotions industry, you would have a better consumer experience and a better experiences for artists. And so in 2024, we had some welcome news in that the Department of Justice, in cooperation with a whole bunch of states, all got together and said, you know what? We're going to slap Live Nation with an antitrust suit. We're going after Live Nation. We're going after the Ticketmaster. We're going after the whole big monopoly. We're going to break them up. And that was what the centerpiece of the case was. They said from the outset in 2024, our goal is to break up Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Anything less than that is a failure of our goal. That was 2024, a different presidential administration, a different business climate. Suddenly it's 2026, and it was just reported that the Department of Justice, led by new management, obviously, has announced a settlement of this monopoly lawsuit with Live Nation. And under the proposed settlement, Live Nation is not going to have to sell its Ticketmaster ticketing arm. So the settlement does not involve actually breaking up this monopoly. Live Nation is promising as part of the settlement to pay about $280 million, way less than, kind of a rounding error for them. They would agree to allow some opening of the Ticketmaster backend technology to competing companies. They would limit some of their venue deals a little bit. They promised not to take retaliatory action against venues that try to use other ticket providers.
They promised. Oh, I'm so.
They promised. No, that's the funniest thing about it, right? There's no actual binding thing like, say, breaking up a monopoly would do. They just kind of promised they would do it, and the DOJ said okay. Who didn't say okay, Zach, was about 27 U.S. states, I believe, who looked at the DOJ settlement and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that. We agreed that when we started this lawsuit, the goal was to break up Live Nation. We needed to make a better music industry. And so many of the states, red states and blue, are still going to, at least as I report this, continue the lawsuit. But, this, I got it, Zach, this news it's not surprising given the political climate we're in. It was always assumed that the Trump administration would be one that is more buddy with the Live Nation folks. Richard Grinnell, a close ally of the Trump administration, was put on the Live Nation board of directors. I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
But I was,
Ryan, they promised.
Yeah, but perhaps naive me was hoping that this could have actually led to some real reform. We could have finally broken up this monopoly. But this is a huge blow again in that effort, and it's not clear where things are going to go from there. Whether the trial is still going to continue. You're losing the DOJ's muscle in this is a huge setback, and it's a little frustrating, I'd say.
Well, one thing that blew me away when I'm doing research on this is that I found that Live Nation owns 78% of the amphitheaters in the United States.
Isn't that bonkers? Yeah.
That's reported as from Politico as of 3 days ago. I remember hearing a comedian, I can't for the life of me remember the comedian, but there was a comedian talking about this on his podcast about how he always thought it was really weird that the people who book him are the people who own the venues, and the people who take a cut of his merch are all the same people. And he's like, I thought that was a monopoly. And I was like, oh, naive person. Yes, it is, but they're not going to do anything about it.
And that's what makes the Live Nation model, that their particular brand of monopoly, so insidious, is that it's not just what we would call the horizontal integration of them owning a super majority of all the live music venues in the United States. It's the vertical integration too. It's the fact that they control the entire supply chain. Oh, you want to book at a Live Nation venue? You need to use the Live Nation ticketing service. You have to use the Live Nation promotion service. Oh, artist, you want to play at a Live Nation venue? You have to be a Live Nation artist and use all of our tools. And we're going to use that horizontal and vertical integration to make our shows crazy expensive, and to make it where we're going to make our tickets sell out right away so that everything goes to a secondary market where we're going to take an additional markup, and we're going to squeeze artists of the promotional dollars and the merchandising dollars, and create just what I would say more than any other time in the history of music is probably the least enjoyed time for live music. I'm sure if you took an opinion poll of music fans and asked how much do you enjoy going to live shows when you take the whole experience, right? The traffic, the price, the experience. I would probably say that most of them would say that this is the worst time in history to be a live music fan. And that has damn near everything to do with one group that has a iron-fisted, monopolistic, vertical, horizontal control over this industry.
Well, and I'm to the point, and I love live music, but unless it's one of my top 10 bands of all time playing close at a venue I can afford, I don't even consider it. Like, I love the Pretty Reckless and I love AC/DC, and they're on the same bill coming to Denver. And I looked it up and I was like, there's even the nosebleeds are starting far beyond my reach.
Yeah.
And I just, it's a sad time because, like, I mean, I got a kid. As she gets older, I want to take her to shows. I want her to get to see cool bands and artists she loves. And I don't know if that's going to be possible unless this, stranglehold gets broken up.
And it's sad because when fans confront those high price points, who gets the brunt of it? It's the artists, right? The artists are the ones that get like the nasty vitriol thrown at them on Twitter. How can you artists be so greedy? Don't you need more money? And why do you really need more money? And what most of those artists will tell you is that's the price point it has to be at for me to be able to sustainably go on tour, because all of these monopolists' hands are in my cookie jar. And what I get left after all those people get their take is barely enough for live music to be sustainable, because it seems contradictory, right? We've reported on this show that live music is more expensive than ever. And we've also reported on this show that touring is less sustainable than it's ever been. So fans are paying more, but somehow artists are getting less. And if you want to know where the money's going, there's a lawsuit right now that's explaining it pretty dang well.
It is beyond frustrating. There is a fantastic documentary that I wish I could remember the name of that I actually looked up and watched in the past couple of weeks. It's on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and look up like Live Nation put bar out of business, it'll pop up. But it's about this small venue owner who spent his entire career, his entire adult life running this venue, only to be put out of business because he couldn't strike a favorable deal with Live Nation. It drove his business into the ground. And he's like, I have no backup plan. I have no skills. I dropped out of high school to do this. And it is a heartbreaking thing. And that documentary is like 5 years old.
You're kidding. What's the name of this? How have I missed this?
I'll find it and I'll post it so you can have it in the show notes. It drove me up the wall, but that's not an uncommon story though, right? I mean, as a gigging musician, the venues that I can play are drying up because it's not sustainable for venue owners either, because a lot of these venue owners, if you're a smaller venue, you also have to pay out, right? You lose cuts of money as well. And so some of my favorite venues have just closed up shop because they can't compete anymore.
I don't think it's a particularly useful exercise to try to blame all the world's problems on a single source, but I think you can cast a pretty wide net and identify a lot of social ills of the things that we don't like about the way the world currently is, and be able to attribute it to the laughable, lax enforcement of antitrust laws that has been the theme of, say, the last 30 years of American government. When we were all in middle school and high school taking civics class, we learned all about how heavily we used to enforce antitrust law in this country. Roosevelt breaking up the trust, breaking up Standard Oil. We knew that monopolies were inherently an evil, and we set out to destroy them because we knew that this kind of stuff was bad for the economy and society and employees and customers and everybody. And we see it in media. There are only a few record labels that control most of the music you hear. That's affecting both music fans and artists. There's one company that's controlling most of the live music you hear. That's not good for live music right now. There are a infinitely smaller and smaller group of tech firms that have their hands in every piece of creative product you ever see, whether it's the few amount of social media companies or single companies like YouTube or TikTok. And all of that has a negative impact on the art that we're enjoying and the ability for artists to make a livelihood. And this expands out just from media, right? So many of the problems we have with the internet, with most products we're buying, most foods we purchase, the fact that everything comes from Amazon, all of those things are, not as good of experiences as they could be. And they're all a product of inefficient monopolies. And I would love to see at some point a politician to actually come out and say, hey, we got this thing called the Sherman Antitrust Act. We have the Clayton Act. Vote for me and I'll actually enforce these laws that we have on the books for the first time. And we saw a little bit of this with the Biden administration because we saw them actually go after Live Nation in 2024, which I never thought they would do in my wildest dreams, by the way, because Live Nation gives a ton of money to the Democratic Party too. So it was a welcome development to see that happen. But then, in 2 years, it all gets dashed. New administration, friendlier with Live Nation. Suddenly, we're taking all of the teeth out of this antitrust lawsuit. And somehow we're getting a settlement of an antitrust case that doesn't actually involve any limitation of the trust itself. Like it was an anti-monopoly suit, and the settlement doesn't actually involve doing anything about the monopoly. It just has, as you derisively noted, Zach, a pinky promise from Live Nation as part of the settlement that they would not retaliate against venues that use a different ticketing option than Ticketmaster. You've got to be kidding.
Well, and I think a frustrating thing to me is, and maybe you can explain it because antitrust law is not certainly my wheelhouse, but this settlement money, exactly where does it go?
I mean, it would go. I mean, it goes to the DOJ.
Okay.
And it will go to, the $280 million will get split also amongst whatever states are willing to accept the settlement. How that's apportioned, I don't know. But again, it looks like about half of the states are holding firm. They don't want that money because this really isn't about the money. It's about busting up this thing that's ruining live music.
Well, and that number, I mean, like, to me, that's a lot of money, but for the industry, that's not going to fix much. I don't understand what that's even supposed to do.
For Live Nation, it's a drop in the bucket.
Well, yeah, and what that's not going to remedy anything. And the whole thing is beyond frustrating because as a live music performer and a live music enjoyer, like, it sucks. I will say this, though, is that one thing I forgot to mention earlier, I have not given up on live music. If there is a small band coming through that I've heard of or I enjoy and I can make it, I go. I go try and see the shows of bands that have been on bills with me because I'm like, I want to be in the scene and I want to take part in this thing I love. I may not get to go see, Coheed and Cambria again because it's too expensive. But local bands, smaller bands, indie bands touring, I'm all over it.
And there's nothing like that life. And I'm excited to talk to Bob O'Burns in the next segment, who obviously is no stranger to that life. His new memoir, Too Many Miles on the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador. You can't have a title like that and not know a thing or two about the touring life. And certainly I'd love to get his perspective in the second segment about how that world has changed, over 3 decades, right? Over Live Nation's increasing dominance over his day-to-day life as a touring musician. I'm sure he's got some really cool perspective there. And I bet he would also have some cool perspective on our second story tonight that we're going to talk about quickly here before we go to the break, which is a Hypebot article about handling your mental health on the road. A new guide highlighted by Hypebot says that life on the road for a musician can disrupt sleep and routines and even your connections with your support system. The constant travel, the loud environments, it can create exhaustion, stress, and isolation for artists. The article talks about how one good key to maintaining your mental health on tour is building small habits that create stability in an unpredictable schedule. Setting up simple daily routines that you make must do. Even things as simple as just a morning stretch or daily journaling, yoga, just having a few quiet minutes to yourself, having that sort of centered experience that is consistent and everyday, even as your touring schedule can be very inconsistent and unpredictable. Another tip from the article to maintain your mental health on tour is creating a, quote, tour wellness kit. Many artists pack a lot of essentials in that wellness kit. Noise-canceling headphones, sleep masks, very important. Books, comfort items from home can really help artists decompress between shows and travel days. And the article talks about some other important tips as well: staying hydrated, communicating openly with your team about stress, and once the tour is over, give yourself time to really recover before you get back out there on that musician grind. This is not something that I would say I have firsthand experience with. Nobody's paid to watch me on tour, but you've played more than a few live gigs in your day, Zach, and I know you are very much a mental health advocate. How did some of the aspects of this article grab you?
I think they are great. One of the things I thought that was particularly interesting was the journaling piece. That's something that, like, as I've gotten older, I whenever I start to feel my mental health slip, or if I'm struggling or feeling depressed, journaling is always something I jump to first. My therapist started me on that years ago, so I thought that was great. I thought your mention of the sleep mask, amazing, especially because so many artists are unable to really afford like lodgings. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago where we talked about like a band who was like, we have to sleep in our van to make
Yeah,
money.
the sleep in the van thing. Yeah.
And like that's a thing. Like I've slept in the van more than a few times, and if you're a singer, you have to sleep or else you can't do it. So a sleep mask is going to help you a lot, and as well as like noise canceling headphones, things like that. One thing I would add is make sure you're in contact with your people back home. Like when you're out for extended periods of time, it's easy to get disconnected, and texting is not the same as having a phone call. So if you've got somebody back home who you care about, or friends, or somebody you're missing, find a way to schedule that. They talk about digital downtime. I would schedule that as like also time to talk to people that you miss, because that's a real thing, man. It gets lonely out there. Even if you're in a van with 6 or 7 people, it still gets lonely when it's not your inner circle.
I'm curious about your mention of journaling in the beginning of that answer. What does journaling do for you or anybody who's trying to regulate their mental health? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, so one of the things I do is like it sounds like a cliche, but I guess cliche for a reason. Write down things you're grateful for. Write down
Like
if something
gratitude
goes.
journals, okay?
Yeah, do that. One thing I like to do is I have a book about stoicism that whenever I feel I need to sort of recenter myself, I will read and then journal about the lessons of stoicism. And that's like the teachings like Marcus Aurelius and stuff like that. Not like, stoic, like you don't feel emotions. It's the idea of like understanding that everything is coming and going. And so you have to be able to deal with that and prepare yourself for it, and prepare yourself for the worst and for the best, to know that you have no control ultimately. And so journaling around those lessons helps a lot too. Some of my more religious friends, they'll journal around like Bible study or things like that as well. But I find that type of journaling is best for me, is the focusing on lessons, stoicism, gratitude, things like that.
That's great perspective, and I appreciate you letting us in on that.
Sure.
I feel like no discussion of handling your mental health on tour would be complete without talking to the person on this show who I think has put down more touring miles than either of us by about 1 billion miles. And that is producer Lauren, who's been touring with various shows in music and theater for 30 years. What say you, producer Lauren, handling mental health on tour, particularly for somebody like you who is a road warrior? What does that mean for you?
So I've seen a lot of those things that are suggested, and I think my advice might be slightly different, which is live it up on tour, love it, experience it for everything it is, and then share that with your people back home. I see a lot of people trying to stick to routines and schedules, and I need to make sure that I do this for my mental health. And in our industry, in our world, there's so much flexibility that's required to change time zones and to flip this and to do that. And being able to embrace that. I said, I woke up with the sun, whatever time it was. I don't know what time zone I'm in, but if the sun got up, I guess I was supposed to get up. That doesn't mean I didn't go back and nap again in a couple of hours, but like I got up with the sun, and I tried to find something to do locally. I've known a lot of people on tour who, to stay connected with home, will make sure that they always eat meals with the people at home. And I'll be on the other side of FaceTime, and I'll be, interacting with people at home. But I've also seen people kind of get lost in the, I need to stay connected to home, and I need to keep my structure, and I need to analyze my thoughts, and I need to experience myself. And, as artists, we have a lot of time to analyze ourselves when we get back home, and we can think about things. When we're on tour, to me, that's a time an artist can collect as much new information as possible, different perspectives, new insight. And enjoy that. Try to avoid the guilt you feel when you are not home, not supporting your family, not repairing the house, not helping put bandages on their knee or whatever it is you're missing at home, and think of all of the experiences that you're gaining that you can share with people at home. They're excited to live vicariously through you. They don't want to feel badly that you feel badly because you're not with them. And I don't want artists to get lost in that.
And it's certainly a mental health virtue to be present. I think, being present in the moment, that's key to mental health. It gets into like notions of mindfulness and things like that. And so, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of that in the perspective you're bringing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Be present, but also find things worthy of sharing, right? If you're in somewhere they haven't been, find something that looks cool in the theater, something that's historic about whatever space you're in or that venue or who else has played there. Like there's something you can find exciting to share. And when you share something cool about somewhere no one else has been that that gives you a sense of purpose and pride and helps your mental health feel like there's a reason for traveling,
Mm-hmm.
You're an ambassador.
Well, I think our guest in the next segment has sort of taken a page from both of your books, Laura and Zach. He is somebody who has always fully lived his life on the tour and experienced a lot of things and was meticulous about chronicling those experiences in thousands of pages of journals, Zach. Those journals, which, by the way, became the source material for the memoir that he wrote, that we're going to talk about in the next segment. So yet another reason to journal, aside from just how good that can be for your mental health, to journal, to be present in the moment, you might get a book out of it when all's said and done in your music career. So that's going to be cool. Let's hear all about that. We're going to take a quick break, then be joined by our guest, Bobo Burns, here on Break the Business. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 2 minutes. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan A. Kairalla, PA. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with Zach Sloan. We're having just a grand old time. I don't do this as nearly as much as I should, so let me just open our coming out of commercial break by thanking all of you for supporting this program. Whatever that support looks like, whether you are watching us on YouTube or on volume.com or Twitch, or if you are an audiophile checking us out on all the major podcasting platforms, or if you are part of our SiriusXM radio family on channel 145, much love to Slam Radio, wherever you're taking in this program, thanks very much. And if you want to do a little bit more for us, if you're looking for other ways to support this program, tell a friend, get the word out, help us just kind of grow this little community. That's all we ask. We're not trying to take your money or anything like that. We just want to help as many people as we can, and we count on your word of mouth to do just that. All right, let us bring in our guest this week. Zach, he is an acclaimed singer-songwriter who has spent more than 3 decades in over 5,000 live shows touring across North America and Europe. His new memoir, Too Many Miles, On the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador, draws from over 20 years of tour journals for a candid look at life as a working indie artist on the road, and will also include a companion album. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting boboburns.com. We are happy to welcome Bobo Burns on To Break the Business. Hi, Bobo. More about our guest's work by visiting boboburns.com. We are happy to welcome Bobo Burns on To Break the Business. Whose voice is
Hey,
that?
everybody.
What's up?
Hey, what is
There it
up,
is.
Bobo?
Not too much. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Just enjoying the conversation there.
Very much my pleasure. I feel like, and I swear we don't like plan our topics around who the guest is, but man, we had some Bobo Burns topics this week. I mean, you are just a road warrior. You've toured all over the place. You've been doing this for decades, and we bring to you news stories about Live Nation and handling your mental health on tour. That must have gotten your wheels turning as you were waiting for this interview.
It sure did. Touching in on, the journaling, and as well as, the idea of like setting standard things to do. And the standard thing, just, I'm like, I don't even know how anybody does that. But the journaling, for sure.
Well, I mean, journaling, I was mentioning this in the prior segment.
No.
Journaling is definitely something that has your stamp of approval. You had been journaling your entire career in live music and then took your thousands of pages of journal pages and then used that to make your memoir.
Yeah. It started because I read.
Well, I think
Oh, did we lose Bobo? Zach, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I started talking and I realized I have internet issues going on as well. And I was like, is it me?
I believe he has blacked out. We have a lovely black box.
All right. Well, hopefully we get Bobo Burns back, but I'm there are a lot of different directions I want to take the interview when we get him, whenever that might be. And one of the things I want to do is kind of get like sort of a long thread of his career. Anybody who's been in live music for 30 years, as this guy has seen like pretty much the entire evolution of live music, right? Because when he started, live music was analog and it was not monopolized, and you could watch your favorite band and not have to pay a month's rent to do it. And he's made it all the way through till today. In today's industry, where it's very digital, where everything's very fast, and nobody has physical tickets anymore, and everything is monopolized. I'd love to see how his perspective has changed, what he thinks are some of the biggest changes in live music, and what he thinks is still the same. Like, what about the last 30 years hasn't changed in live music?
Well, and one thing I'm always interested in is like the promotional aspect. As an indie artist, like how has promoting your shows changed in the past 30 years? And is it better or worse now? I suspect the answer is all of the above. But Lauren, I'd love to get your thoughts on that because you're in that boat as we speak.
I think Bobo
As
just
I was going to say, as Bobo pops back in, I was loving what he said earlier. In case nobody caught it earlier, but when he said routines that people do every day, I don't know what that's like, and I was thinking like I'm with you there. I was like, what routines?
Yeah.
So you're not one of these artists, because like I have these artists among my client base where they have a routine when they go on the road. They have to do the same yoga poses every morning outside the tour bus. They have to eat the same food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner to kind of stay grounded. That's not your bag,
Is
I
this thing
guess.
working? God damn it.
Oh, no. Bobo, are you there?
This is why things get broken.
Oh, man. I thought I asked such
I'm
a good
assuming you can
question,
hear
too.
me.
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
There's
Thumbs
nothing
up, we
coming
can hear
through.
you. Yes.
Oh my God.
Bobo, check your your input
I'm gonna tell you,
settings.
I hooked up the SM7. I was going to be pro.
Bobo, if you can hear me, I'm gonna call
I
you.
can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Oh,
Yo, whoa, hey, Bobo's back.
hi-oh. I love that we were discussing, you weren't here earlier when we were discussing your windblown hair in your photograph, but I'm loving the contrast now with the pulling the hair out hair. It's working.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
live.
So first somebody
live
called, I'm on my iPad and I'm like, oh, this will work great. And then, I don't know, I got the SM7. I think I'm pro. Motherfucking.
Sirius XM, Bobo, be
sorry.
careful.
Is this not a swearing podcast? I'm
Not
sorry.
one of those, no.
I can't hear Ryan though.
You can't hear me, but you can hear Lauren?
I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear Zach? Zach, talk.
Yo, what, Bobo? Can you hear me? Anything?
Everything's right there. It's all right there.
But he can hear Lauren. Okay, so
Hold on. That might mean I have to do an interview. You can hear me, but no one
I
else?
can hear exactly.
this is a special kind of
This
nightmare.
is the
Okay,
takeover.
we can do this.
Okay.
Producer Lauren, would you like to talk
I
to
have
Bobo and
backups,
we'll
though.
feed you questions?
I'm loving it. Oh, wait, we have a full production going on here. Is this your studio where you
Yes.
record stuff? I'm noticing all of your sound treatments and whatnot here. Wow.
Oh, yeah. It was all done very, I did all the math and then just stuck things out on the walls.
Now, did you record the album here?
I've recorded several albums here.
Ooh, I'm loving. I love it when musicians, record everything in space. My goodness, do you do all of the instruments as well?
Yes.
This is a true DIY musician right here. When you tour, do you also do you bring in other musicians to tour with you? What does your touring life look like?
Mostly I'm touring solo, but I also I have here in Southern California, my wife sings and plays bass. She's also a songwriter. And then I got my buddy Matt that plays drums with us, has for like a decade now. When I go to the East Coast, I have other musician friends that will play in when needed there. When I go to Germany, I have musicians that will play with me there. I have musicians that play with me in Austria. And so
Wow. So that's crazy coordination there, right?
it is crazy coordination. I'm bringing up the laptop. So maybe I can jump in another.
I have a bad feeling he can't hear us, but I have a feeling that if he fires up that laptop, we're gonna get feedback into his microphone.
What did he say?
Oh, he's afraid that as soon as we start another laptop, we're going to get audio feed looping, where we're going to get the audio from your laptop coming into your
I will
iPad.
mute it.
So we may
I
not
will
want
mute
that.
it.
He's going to
Producer
mute that.
Lauren, we're feeding you
Okay.
questions in the
So I'm gonna
chat for
mute that.
Bobo first.
Oh, I got it. All right. So you've been in the industry for a really long time. What changes have you seen in the industry in your longevity here? Have things like, have you seen a lot of changes?
Technology. And here's the thing, the future always wins. Like whatever new thing is going to happen, the future always wins. But it's exhausting how you always have to keep learning something new.
That could be exhausting. What has stayed the same? Have you seen things that haven't really changed? What kind of has been standard?
Songs. It's all about the song.
That's
Everything
true.
is all about the song. If you don't have a song, you don't have anything. And yeah.
Let's try to get some more stories from
right.
producer Lauren. Ask him the most unusual place
Go
he's
ahead.
ever played a gig.
Ooh. All right. So the question has come in, and then I have a question about an actual song. But what's the strangest place you've ever had to play a gig? Or like a really, I know, right? Here we go. I want
feel like
I want a
Cyrano
good war
de Bergerac
story.
right now.
I've played in like former brothels.
Ooh.
I played burlesque shows.
Is
as
this an
fa-
East Coast thing? That feels like Manhattan right there.
Burlesque was in Southern California. The brothel was in Hanover, Germany. Hanover, Hamburg. I forget where. Yeah. I mean,
Any good
And-
war stories, or
and like
do they have to
Zach was
stay on-
saying about like staying in different places, I have a friend that put me up to stay when I was traveling, and I didn't know where I was going to be staying, and it ended up being the house of a dominatrix. Yeah.
Ooh.
And at first, there's that level of like, oh, clutch the pearls, right?
Right.
But then, I've stayed there 2 or 3 times, and I sit and, I would be doing my booking on my computer. She'll be doing her booking on her computer.
I was like, the madam is there.
Oh yeah. And she showed me her studio, and it's like the cleanest place I've ever been. And, you know, she mostly like takes care of her website and booking and doesn't do anything illegal. Uh, she drinks beer with her pizza and pays her taxes, walks her dog, and is a model citizen. So it's kind of like
Were
the American
clients
dream.
coming in while you were,
Not while I was
trying to
there.
get your work done? Just like,
Not while
hi,
I
nice
was
to
there.
meet you.
But
Don't
I
worry,
will
I'll
say-
just be playing music in the background for you. Pay no
Yeah.
attention. Dude.
No. It was scheduled. It goes back to scheduling things. And
All right. Good
Zach,
stories.
Lauren's going to do 20
Zach,
minutes on the brothel. Just,
I got
I
the other one up
know.
here.
Zach is home like crying right now that he can't directly ask these questions. But on his behalf, he wants to know about the song Bad Decisions, and he wants to know if there are any good stories that you got to bring your friends back home from bad decisions.
Okay, so Bad Decisions grew out of.
I would have never
The
guessed that
time
was a
when I-
Zach question.
Do you know the old 97s and Rhett Miller?
Yes.
So
Okay.
yes.
I
You're
was
also
seeing
getting a
old-
thumbs up and head shake from Zach.
Okay, good. I can see the head shakes.
Oh, there you go.
Ryan's not shaking his hair.
He's got no hair to shake.
So I was watching Rhett Miller from the old 97s perform, and he had all these songs about making bad decisions. And I thought, I've made some bad decisions. I must be able to write a song about that. So I came home to the studio here, and like a dozen verses just fell out. I'm like, okay, I need to reel this in. And it started off with being in Harvard Square busking and being picked up by a woman who claimed to be a witch. But she was like a Stevie Nicks witch, so she was cool. And she took me home, and it didn't work out, but it was still a fun time. And then a short while later, I got asked out by a woman I was with in college, and she said, "I'll pick you up on Sunday. And I was like, okay. And she picked me up and drove me to a hotel to her church group that was getting together in the convention room and introduced me to her boyfriend. And I was like, oh, this isn't a date. This is recruitment for your church. And I was like, okay, this is just, I'm not digging
The
this at
hotel
all.
had a totally different meaning. Like your
Yeah,
old
yeah.
girlfriend brings you to a hotel.
Exactly. And so I was a young man kind of spinning my wheels, and I'd already, had another friend try to convince me to join his Amway, cult. And I had a boss that was really into Tony Robbins, and he convinced me to go to a Tony Robbins seminar. Tony Robbins seminar was in Toronto, Ontario, and I lived in Boston at the time. And so on the way to the Tony Robbins seminar, I dropped acid. And then what?
So far this interview is going
this okay to
exactly the way
tell?
I thought it
Love
would.
it. Yeah.
Okay. And so I went to the Tony Robbins seminar on acid, walked in the 1200 degree coals, and then I decided to hitchhike home. And then 2 days later, like a week after I got home, I was at a party, and I struck up a conversation with a woman about utopian literature, and that's how I met my wife.
Was she the one who struck up the conversation about utopian literature?
Yes.
Why not? That is how you know right there.
Lost Horizon, Herland, here we go.
All right. So to bring it back around to touring, you had mentioned touring. I know. I had to. This is my show, right? We're gonna have great stories on tour.
Can Bobo
And-
still not hear us?
No, he can't hear you.
I got it up here. Okay. I'm going to turn this one down.
Oh, wait, we're hearing voices. I'm hearing
I'm
voices.
back.
I don't think this is
Backstage.
going to work.
So
Can you hear us now, Bobo?
you no.
That's a no.
So you used to tour as a band, but you discussed that now like you're touring more solo and bringing other musicians in. How has the business side of your work as an indie artist changed when you went to touring more solo?
Well, it's all economics because you can't afford to bring a band out. And
Fair
so
enough.
many of the venues, even finding venues that have just like rock bands, there's so fewer of them, good English. But I can do a lot more house concerts and fill in festival dates and with house concerts and the like. And I, adapt what I do so I can make more sound, more noise.
And I assume all of the rights to all of your songs and everything are owned by you, and it probably makes paperwork a little more simple if you make sure you hire other artists and everything is yours that you own.
Well, it does now.
Well, he did get his
I
masters
was-
back from his label. Ask him about that.
Ooh,
What do you
I
say?
just heard you got your masters back from your label. Is this true?
I did.
Impressive, sir. How'd you do that?
I was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
I was on a German label for a number of years, and my songs changed hands 4 times. Went from Broken Silence to Booed to The Orchard to Centric. So that's who my publishing just kept. And every time it changed hands, more mistakes were made in the BMI song list. And I kept writing them saying, this song, No Expectations, is by the Rolling Stones. I did not write this. There's going to be a problem. And I was covering my ass and like keeping it. And they just kept complaining. And they were like, you need to submit that form in what's it, Sheets. And I'm like, it's not my job to do I'm not
Literally
gonna-
what I pay you for. You're taking a
Exactly.
percentage of my money to do this. Yes.
So I complained enough about it, and finally they were like, well, what if we just, weren't on the label anymore? I'm like, yes, please.
Please, I will take those. Thank you.
And so I got them, they held the option for my last, that album, and I got them to not want the option, so.
Got them to release the option too. Yes. Congratulations. You have to do a lot of work as an indie artist to kind of babysit your work that in theory was getting assistance.
And it's, we became musicians because we weren't good at paperwork.
Right.
Yeah.
Amen. That's why you have people like
Yeah.
Ryan and like me around because the artists don't do that part.
Yeah. And the fun part, when I did get all the songs back, is they just pulled everything down offline. So I lost all the ISBN numbers for all of them, and they wouldn't provide those numbers to me. So I lost every playlist I was in, every favorite, every radio station, a
You have
500,000
to start it
streams
all
on
over.
Spotify. Everyone went back to 0.
Wow. But
So that was,
how do you feel about it owning them yourself now? Would you wouldn't
I
change
recommend.
anything? You recommend it still.
The thing is, if
Hey!
they're offering something that you can't do,
Right.
then
Owning
you
your
weigh that.
masters,
Is it
pro or
worth it?
con?
I'm just saying a lot of people would be nervous. Ryan saying pro or con. Like, obviously, yes, you want to own your masters, but a lot of people would be afraid to do that because you know what has to go into it, right? Like to know you're owning it, you have to go back to 0. You have to do this work. And even though you went through that and analyzing it on the other side, it still feels good to own your own work and to have your choices going forward, right?
It does, absolutely. And, the strange
But
thing,
it's not
like,
a no-brainer. It's something you have to think about. That's stressful.
absolutely. Oh, they say that, like, you grow up, you're like, oh, I'm going to sign that record deal. And then you sign the record deal and you're like, okay, nothing really changed. And I think of it a lot as like, they say when you buy a boat, the first day and the last day are the best day to have a boat.
That's right. The best day of your life is the day you buy a boat, and the next best day is the day you sell the boat, right?
Yeah. So I think it's very much the same thing for being on a label.
Yeah, you really want to get it, and then as soon as you're on it, you can't wait to get off of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have 100 audio engineers in this room right now, and not one could possibly explain to me how our guest can hear producer Lauren's mic, but not Zach or my mic. That makes no sense.
Ryan is
I wish I could hear
currently
that.
complaining. I know. I was gonna say Ryan is currently complaining about how somehow miraculously the audio world only wants the two of us talking, and it would like to keep the boys out of the conversation. I mean, it's not my fault. We can't control how these things happen.
Zach
Nope.
can hear me.
Goes to the
I can
machine.
hear Zach. America can hear us. But only Bobo can hear only producer Lauren.
It's true. He can only hear me. So I will take that opportunity.
Ask him about his book.
Do you want me to try logging out and logging back in?
No, yes. Well, Ryan can't now. We're just going to let Ryan and Zach have their own little party. And I want to ask you, while I still
I'm
have you
sorry,
on the
guys.
air, about your book. No, tell us about this book. And I mean, good Lord, yes, there it is.
Beautiful.
Oh my goodness, your guitar is on the front.
Yes.
So tell us about this book.
Okay. Too Many Miles on the road with an unofficial rock and roll goodwill ambassador. It started off as me keeping journals because we were talking about journaling earlier. That seemed like a lifetime ago at this point. But yeah, like the first journal I wrote was in 1990 when I was hitchhiking in Vermont. And I was like, I think I like doing this, and it's the closest thing I have to a we were talking about the regiment when you're
Yeah.
on the road. Keeping a journal is the closest I have to that. And so originally I was just trying to document where I'd been so I wouldn't forget things. But after I started touring more solo, they sort of became like letters home to my wife. And so she could experience the things as well. And a lot of me trying to understand what I just went through, what I just experienced. You know?
Yeah, wow. I personally just want to know, you're going to laugh at me now, but I want to know, has it been too many miles? And could it ever be too many miles? I know they're laughing at me now, but like my first instinct when I read it is like, can you ever have too many miles?
Well, it came about because I was traveling from,
What's
I had just come through Illinois, played in Nashville, and I thought my next show was in Decatur, Georgia. But it was actually in
I've
Decatur,
been there.
Illinois.
I've been there too.
So I thought I was doing a loop, but really I was backtracking. And then as I was just driving back and I went, this is too many miles.
This is too many miles.
And just became sort of a mantra that I was singing.
I love that. See, and even though the boys are laughing at me, I'm so glad I asked that question.
You
Me too.
nailed it.
We are driving you nuts. But before we let you go, we're going to ask you the question we ask all of our guests, which is, do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward? I know. Easy question.
I need a second on that.
Oh,
Yeah. Any
pressure of
Well,
the careers
yeah.
of indie artists.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll just quickly mention while Bobo thinks
what's Ryan
about it.
saying?
You can find out more about our guest work by visiting boboburns.com. The memoir is Too Many Miles on the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador. Okay.
Well done, man.
You see if you can try to see if you can answer the question now. Ask him again.
All right.
What do you say?
Oh no.
So one more time. Now here's he was giving us our lovely how we can find you at your website, boboburns.com.
I'm
And
the only
how
Bobo
your
Burns
new
in the world.
available is you are the only one in the world.
Yep.
Wow, that's impressive.
Here's the thing for musicians and songwriters and all that sort of stuff. When you come up with your band name or your name, don't spell it stupid so people can't find you online.
That is good advice.
Good advice.
You're getting a thumbs up right there. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Excellent.
Boys
Thank
with a
you.
Z.
Tell him that was a good answer.
That was a great answer. The boys are applauding you. I am loving that. I would like to thank you so much for your time. I would like to thank our guests. I would like to take over this show as I have been doing. Thank you, Zach Sloan. Thank you, Ryan Kairalla. And thank you to all of you video listeners out there. We will see you next week.